All right, so things aren't looking super sunny in Philadelphia. Joel Embiid isn't liking the way that the playoff series is turning out, and he's getting dirty. He's hitting people. But he's even calling out fans for not coming to the game. At this point, do you think Joel Embiid has done irreversible damage to his image? I didn't see that.
I don't.
What's going on there?
What? You didn't see what? Go ahead.
I didn't see him call. I don't know if it was a tweet or if he was like doing that in like a presser or something.
About the fans?
The fans not coming to the games.
Okay, so I was at that game in Philly on Sunday. And I don't know if you saw DeMonze. This was a good example of the you know what? Let me tell a quick story. Hold on. I'm going to interrupt myself as I often do. Remind me to tell a story about where I was sitting, DeMonze. Okay?
Okay.
Don't forget to remind me. That crowd did sound like MSG. The Madison Square Garden tickets are so expensive. Though, let me give you an example, DeMonze. Those seats that you had for Clippers Mavs, right? Those seats that you had for Clippers Mavs, which again, it's Los Angeles. So it's not like they are a super cheap ticket, but it is the Clippers. Those seats were $450. They were sideline for 2 tickets, $450. Sideline, call it 16th, 18th row. Okay?
Right.
Those same exact 2 tickets at MSG tonight are $5,200. Yeah. It is, when I say it is,
I was thinking 1,500.
10x. No, they're $2,600 a seat for those seats, DeMonze. And those were good seats, but they weren't life-changing seats. The cheapest ticket in the building, okay? Right now, the cheapest ticket. This can't be right. The cheapest ticket in the building. It is section 317, top bowl of MSG in the corner, are $470 each. Okay? So what's happened is some of the most diehard Knicks fans who aren't corporate tickets, who don't have a ton of money, they figured out cheaper to go to Philly. Cheaper to make the drive or take the train to Philadelphia in order to go to the game. And it was like a 50-50 Knicks-Sixers crowd. It was unbelievable. So that was Embiid's frustration. I will cut Embiid slack in this regard, man. He is playing on one leg. Half his face is collapsed due to Bell's palsy. When he goes to the bench, the team dies. So he has to play the whole game. And by the fourth quarter, he's exhausted. What I was saying earlier when I said Jamal is the reverse Embiid, what I mean is Jamal is a good regular season player who in the playoffs is unbelievable. Embiid historically has been an unbelievable regular season player who in the playoffs is just good. And so this postseason, I actually think he's played well under adverse circumstances. And also, man, Jalen Brunson, I'm excited for the game tonight. Jalen Brunson, first player in NBA history to have 85 points and 20 assists in consecutive playoff games. First player in NBA history. No one's ever done it. And that brings me to the story I wanted you to remind me to tell, which was I was right next to DeMonze, the scorer's table, in between the Knicks bench and the scorer's table for this Sixers-Knicks game, okay? So the way the seats work is there's true courtside, feet on the wood, where Micah Parsons and C.J. Stroud were sitting. There's that. There's second row courtside, feet on the wood, but there's a row of people in front of you. And then there's row 1 in the actual, stands, right? I was row 1 in the stands. So not courtside, but pretty unbelievable seats.
Great.
And I'm between the Knicks bench and the scorer's table. Into the first quarter. Jalen Brunson's dad, Rick Brunson, who is played in the NBA for a long time, went to Temple, a Philly legend, and Knicks assistant coach, sees me. And is smiling. He's like, hey, you owe my son an apology. And I'm like, yo, what do you mean? He's like, you owe him an apology. And I think this is in relation to the clip of me after. Well, it was when the Knicks signed Jalen Brunson we were still remote from the Mavs. So a couple years ago, I was like, listen, he's a good player. But if you think he's going to be the best player on a high-level team, you're out of your mind, essentially. I thought of him what I think almost everyone thought of him. It's not like I was like, this guy stinks, this whatever it is. I was like, he's a good player. But he's not, if he's your best player, you're not a good team. And I was wrong. Like, flatly, he's been unbelievable. And so what Rick didn't know was I have already, I don't know if I've said I'm sorry. I don't know that I need to apologize, but I have owned that I was wrong. And so I was like, I already did. He was like, no, you need to do it on TV. I'm like, no, I already did. I was like, I had him 4th on my MVP ballot, which I didn't really explain to him. I don't actually have a ballot, but I pretend I have a ballot and I release it anyway. But like on my fake MVP ballot, I had him 4th. And he was like, oh, okay. And so now we're having like a cool back and forth. But you know how I talk. I talk with my hands. He does the same thing. And at this point, he has walked. So he's kind of like between the person that's true courtside and the person at the scorer's table who's in charge of the Knicks challenges. I have stood up, and I am right behind the person who's second row courtside, and we are 2 feet apart, laughing or whatever, but talking with our hands. And the ref comes over and asks Rick if he wants me to be thrown out. To be ejected. And by the way, man, shout out to Rick Brunson for being a good dude, because he was like, no. He's like, we're cool. We're just talking. You know what I mean? Everything's all good. We're having fun. But Rick Brunson could have really screwed me there. He could have been like, yep, get him out of here. Like, do you know how mortifying that would have been?
What point in the game was that?
It was at the end. It was between the first and the second quarter. It would have been like it was right before they came back from commercial. Like, can you imagine if on the Richard Jefferson broadcast, they're like, oh, the referee's kicking a fan out, and it's me? Like, and so, and again, like, I wasn't doing anything wrong, but the ref just saw Rick's back.
No, he saw one of the players' dads arguing with what he thought was just a fan.
Well,
but he probably knows who you are. My bad. He could have. Right.
No. I don't think the ref did know who I was, and it's fine. But he saw a coach having a very demonstrative discussion with a fan, and now they have both like stood, and we weren't you know what I mean? Right. And again, it was 100% friendly, but it was so funny that the ref just saw it, and in that moment, I was like, oh man, he really could have screwed me there. He could have been like, yep, get him out of here. He said my son was a bad contract.
Shout out to Mr.
Throw
Brunson.
His ass out. Yeah, no, it was great. Now, one added piece of it. The funny Rick Brunson anecdote, and then we really got to move on. Brew covered Rick in the NBA and mentions him regularly in 2 contexts. One is, whenever we talk Summer League, he says, man, I was at a Summer League once when Rick Brunson looked like Jason Kidd. And he uses that as an example as to why you shouldn't overrate Summer League. But the other reason he mentions Rick Brunson a lot is because Brew is just the right age where if you covered somebody's dad and that kid's now playing, you're just going to call the kid the dad's name. So basically every time we have a Jalen Brunson discussion, Brew calls him Rick Brunson, and we just let it go. So, if anything, we should be a beloved show in the Brunson household for father and son. But yeah, so that's my anecdote from Philly. Hey, thanks for watching.
Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.